Ever just space out in front of the fridge? Like, why not even open this thing? Or completely lose your train of thought mid-conversation. Happens to me all the time. It's like our brains are these, crammed filing cabinets, tons of info, but can't find anything. So what if we could, hack our brains to remember almost anything? Well, that's what we're diving into, the art and science of memory. We're talking memory champions, ancient mnemonists, even this guy who tried to memorize every single Warner Bros. Cartoon. I know,
Yeah.
right? We've all heard of photographic memory, that mental snapshot thing. But scientists are pretty skeptical. Like, there was this woman, Elizabeth, who claimed she could remember everything, worked with a scientist to prove it. But let's just say there were some, inconsistencies. Then there's the opposite. People who can't form new memories at all. Like EP, this guy who, after brain damage, couldn't remember anything new, not even breakfast. But here's the thing. He could still learn new stuff, even though he couldn't remember learning it. Like, teach him a new skill, he'd pick it up, but no memory of the process. It's like his brain was still absorbing stuff, but bypassing the conscious memory part makes you think, right? What even is memory? Speaking of learning without realizing it, you ever notice how you remember phone numbers in chunks? Our brains are way better at remembering things in smaller bits. It's called chunking. Pretty powerful technique. Like, try remembering 10 random words. Tough, right? But group them into categories like animals or colors, and it gets way easier. That's chunking. Finding ways to group stuff that makes sense to your brain. And get this, experts, like chess masters, SWAT officers, even chick sexers, they rely on chunking. Years, sometimes decades, building up these mental libraries of patterns so they see something new. Boom, their brain recognizes the chunks and makes connections we'd miss. Take chess masters. They see the best moves instantly. Not because they're geniuses, but because their brains have chunked the board into meaningful units. It's like they see strategies, not just pieces. Which, reminds me of this time I tried speed reading. Figured I'd be a walking encyclopedia, so I got all these books and tapes, practicing, trying to skim and absorb everything. Total backfire. I remembered less because I was so focused on speed that I wasn't actually engaging with the material. It was like my brain was just glazing over everything. Real learning isn't about cramming. It's about understanding and building those mental chunks. And one of those powerful techniques for that, memory palaces. I know, sounds kind of medieval, right? Like Harry Potter or something. It's been used for centuries, back to ancient Greece. And it's simple, but effective. You pick a place you know well, like your house or a park. Then you imagine placing things you want to remember in specific spots. Grocery list, dates, anything. The key is to make the images vivid and unusual. Like, instead of just a banana on the counter, imagine a giant talking banana wearing a sombrero, playing maracas. I know, sounds crazy. But trust me, the weirder the better. Our brains are wired to remember spatial stuff. You rarely forget the layout of your house, right? So you link info to spots in a familiar space. You're tapping into that spatial memory, creating strong connections. It's like a mental filing system, but with, talking bananas and stuff. I was skeptical at first. Thought this is too goofy. But I tried it. Chose my childhood home. Started with the front door. Put a giant talking pineapple and a top hat on the doormat. Don't ask why, it just pops in my head. Then I walked through the house mentally, putting other items on stuff. Pancakes on a bookshelf, penguins in the bathtub. And it worked. I could walk through my mental house and remember everything. It was like magic. The more I practiced, the more elaborate my palaces got. I built them for everything. History, science, even pop culture. Like having these mental libraries I could just access. It was fun. But the deeper I got into memory techniques, I realized it's not just about facts and figures. It's about understanding, connecting, making meaning. And that brings me to this fascinating idea, the evolution of memory techniques. Because they've been around for centuries, changing with different cultures. Like in ancient Greece, memory palaces were used by orators to remember speeches. No teleprompters back then, so they relied on mental tricks. Can you imagine reciting a whole speech from memory? And medieval monks, they used memory palaces for entire religious texts and stuff. Saw memory as a spiritual thing. There's even a story about this Italian jurist, Peter of Ravenna. He memorized like 20,000 legal points using a memory palace. So why were these techniques so popular back then? Well, no printing presses or smartphones, right? Information was precious, but it was more than that. They saw memory as a core part of learning and understanding, not just rote memorization, but weaving together information and ideas. They understood memory as more than just storing data. It's about creating connections, shaping our view of the world. Makes you wonder, right? In our age of Google, have we lost something? Have we become so reliant on external memory that we've neglected our own minds? Because let's be real, we're drowning in information these days. But are we actually keeping any of it? Or just skimming, letting it wash over us? It's a question we're thinking about. Because even with all this technology, our brains are still the main processors. And the more we know about how they work, the better we can handle all this information. So we've talked about improving memory, right? Memory palaces, chunking, all that. But what about people with like superhuman memory? Those savants who memorize phone books or recite pi to the thousandth decimal. Are they just like wired differently? Or is something else going on? Turns out even savants might be using techniques, maybe unconsciously. Like Daniel Tammet, this savant who sees numbers as shapes and colors, does crazy calculations in his head, even learned Icelandic in a week. But the author, he met Daniel and started thinking, maybe Daniel's abilities weren't totally innate. What if it was years of like subconscious training? His brain constantly finding patterns. Like, remember EP, the guy who couldn't form new memories? He could still learn stuff without knowing it. So what if savants are just really good at that unconscious learning, picking up on things we miss? Pretty wild, right? It makes you think, what if we all have that potential? Just got to tap into it, you know? Reminds me of when I was learning a new language, struggling with the grammar. Couldn't wrap my head around it. But I started listening to music, watching movies in that language, even though I didn't understand most of it. And then it just clicked. Started picking up on the patterns, the rhythm, like my brain was learning without me. Had this aha moment. So maybe the key to memory isn't forcing ourselves to memorize. Maybe it's about like immersing ourselves, letting our brains do their thing. Connecting, finding patterns. Speaking of connecting, let's talk about the OK plateau. You ever hit that point learning something where you just stop improving? Been practicing guitar for months, still making the same mistakes. That's the OK plateau. Super frustrating. Makes you think you've hit your limit. But it's not about lack of talent. It's about lack of what they call deliberate practice. See, deliberate practice isn't just mindless repetition. It's pushing yourself, finding your weaknesses, and focusing on those. Like say you're a basketball player working on free throws. Deliberate practice isn't just shooting tons of free throws. It's analyzing your form, figuring out what's wrong and fixing it, maybe even breaking down the motion and practicing each part. And the key is feedback from a coach or even recording yourself, because sometimes we can't see our own flaws. Now, here's a weird thing. Sometimes forgetting can actually help break through that plateau. Yeah, forgetting. When we forget, we got to relearn. And relearning can mean deeper understanding. It's like learning a song on piano. At first, it's all about the notes. But as you practice, you forget those individual notes and like internalize the music. You understand the feeling behind it. That's where the magic happens. So next time you hit that plateau, don't give up. Use it to relearn and push yourself further. Sometimes you got to go back to move forward, you know. Now, we've talked about individual memory, but what about collective memory? The things we remember as a society, our history, traditions, values. It connects us to the past, gives us identity. But with so much information these days, it's easy to lose sight of that. So much information, so many different stories, it's hard to know what to believe, what to remember. And technology is playing a big part in shaping that memory. We have access to tons of information, stuff that would have been lost in the past. But we got to be careful, right? Because technology can be used to like twist the past. We see it all the time with social media, spreading misinformation. So we got to be critical thinkers, question what we see and hear, get different perspectives. It's like that telephone game we played as kids, remember? You whisper a message, and by the end, it's completely different. Collective memory can be like that. Information gets passed down and changed along the way. But the good news is we have more ways to keep accurate information than ever before. Documents, eyewitness accounts, helps us get a fuller picture of the past. And that's where it gets exciting. We can create a more accurate collective memory, one that shows all the different experiences and helps us learn from the past. It's a challenge, but a huge opportunity. Because the stories we tell about the past shape our present and our future. Speaking of the future, let's talk about life logging. Imagine a camera recording everything you see, a microphone for every conversation, sensors tracking every move. That's life logging, a complete record of your life, like a perfect external memory. But it makes you think, right? What about privacy? Our sense of self. Who gets to see all that data? Kind of creepy. Imagine someone having your entire life log. They'd know everything about you, your habits, secrets, everything. Fascinating and terrifying. Is this the future of memory? Will we all be walking around with life logs? Or is forgetting a part of being human? Letting go of the past. Something to think about. Because how we remember and how we forget shapes our world. Now, before we finish this deep dive, I got to tell you about Kim Peek, the real Rain Man. He was a savant with incredible mental abilities, could read 2 pages at once, one with each eye, and remember everything. He memorized over 12,000 books, word for word, an entire library in his head. He knew every detail, like a walking Google. But he could do more than just memorize. He could connect things that seemed totally unrelated. Knew the zip code for every town, could calculate the day of the week for any date. Now, King was unique. He had some brain abnormalities and social skills were tough for him. But his story makes you think, what if we all have that potential? A little Rain Man inside. What if the key is mindfulness? Training ourselves to pay attention, make connections. Pretty wild, huh? Imagine remembering your dreams like real life. Every conversation, every book. All that knowledge inside us. Wouldn't that be amazing? So we've been through a lot, right? Photographic memory myths, memory champions, all that's like mind-blowing stuff.
Makes you realize we have this powerful tool, but we don't always use it well. Like back in college, I'd cram for exams, stuffing my brain like a Thanksgiving turkey. I'd pass the test, but a week later, poof, gone. Then I found this book on memory techniques. Changed everything. It's not just about tests. It's about remembering for life. And you know what keeps coming up? Memory palaces. They're like the ultimate memory tools. Like imagine instead of just reading a history book, you could walk through a memory palace filled with images and scenes. You could meet the people, hear the sounds, even smell the aromas of different times. Wouldn't that be something? It's like, remember that scene in Titanic where Rose goes back and walks through the ship, reliving everything? A memory palace is kind of like that, but for anything you want. And anyone can build one. It's not just for geniuses. It's using your imagination, your spatial memory, creating those vivid connections in your mind. It's like, remember building forts as a kid? You knew that fort inside and out, right? A memory palace is kind of like that, but you're building with your imagination.
And the more you use it, the stronger it gets, like a mental muscle. So what does this all mean? It means you can improve your memory, learn anything you want, unlock that potential in your brain. But it's bigger than that. Memory is more than just storing stuff. It's connecting with the past, shaping our now, imagining the future. It's making sense of it all, becoming the authors of our own stories. So next time you can't remember something, don't worry. Just remember how powerful your mind is. And hey, maybe take a walk through your own memory palace. See what you find. You never know what's waiting in there.